moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy. No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome into the Tuesday edition of the Rick Robinson Show. Slightly preempted because President Trump is hanging out in Saudi Arabia, so we were carrying that over on Digital Beacon feed. My plan, believe it or not, was just to roll straight into the show. And then I realized since I pulled it up on the Digital Beacon feed that I didn't have all the things I needed to be able to do that. So this is why there was a brief intermission and now a typo that I just noticed because I was in a hurry. Anyway, so it's Tuesday. Lots of things to talk about. Some of you are starting to pop into the chat. So if you would be so kind, please make sure you are liking the feed, sharing the feed, because we did kind of have to start over for reasons. But some of you are probably looking at the title going, okay, so you typoed at least once we can see because there's a D where an S should be. But what the hell is MALCA? I'll explain in a minute. Not right now. More of you need to show up first, so go tell your friends, because I'm not saying this more than once, damn it. Well, I might. It usually happens, but still. Go tell your friends we're here, we're live. Tell them to get their butts in the chat room. I was kidding. You don't really have to. It would be nice if you did. In the words of Matthew McConaughey, it would be cool if you did. I know. I cannot do a McConaughey impression. He's one of the voices I cannot get down, no matter how many times I've heard it. I just can't do it. It's weird. Anyway. All right, so lots of things to talk about today. One of the big takeaways from me from the speech was, as somebody that gets paid to speak professionally, the ums bother me. I almost stopped paying attention because I'm like, if he says one more time, I just can't do it. I can't do it. All right, I should probably turn that down now. Dude, I don't know what it is about bagpipes. I don't know. Anyway, bagpipes and AC/DC seem like a perfect way to start a Tuesday. So here we are. But yeah, the first takeaway is put him back on a prompter so the ums will stop. Because yeah, in case you haven't figured it out yet, and this happens with me too. When I go off script, I say some because I'm starting to think more than I do when I have like notes and stuff in front of me and talking points that I definitely want to make sure that I make. When I start riffing, that's when you're going to hear more often. And that's kind of how I knew he was doing that too. Plus, it was a pretty wide shot and I couldn't really see a prompter anywhere unless it was somewhere off screen. But I think that was also to prove a point. Hey, they've elected somebody that doesn't need one of those fucking things anymore. How you like me now? So that may have been part of it. I also can't wait until on MSDNC, CNN, et al. Today they start. Did you hear him openly praising the country of Saudi Arabia? Is he their president or ours? You know that's happening. It's probably already started, but you know it will happen at some point today. Hey, we have a raptor sighting. We have a Denny sighting. We have a rare Andrew sighting because he's usually pulling a Alejandro and waking, but he's here. So yay. Glad everybody's starting to funnel into the chat. But yeah, waiting for that. If it happens, I will probably screen grab it so I can point and laugh later at some point. Probably tomorrow, because reasons. See, told you, off script. But the other big takeaway for me was the biggest line I think he had of the entire speech. The Middle East future is through commerce, not chaos. That was an amazing, short, concise message that I think resonated with everybody. And then him tying it back to look at Iran before they did what they did, and how before they did what they did, they were once known as the Paris of the Middle East. And now look at them because of what they've done. And now what they're doing to all of you. These were great points. They really were. And he's coming into this with a lot of clout because everything that the world has told him that if he did it, the entire world was going to collapse day one. If he even started talking about trying to equalize trade, the world was going to collapse day one. If he started trying to make it to where the border was closed, the world was going to collapse day one. This man has done more in, what are we at now, 115 days, I think. I'm doing the math in my head. I think that's pretty close to where we are. But in that time frame, he's done more in his first 100 days plus than the entire Biden administration has done in 4 years. He's also called an audible while he is overseas, while he's in that region. He's decided he's going to make a visit to Turkey, most likely. This is on top of everything else that he's been doing. This man puts me to shame, and I'm only 52. Well, later this month. I'm holding on to that one for as long as I can. But he puts me to shame. Everybody around me is like, I don't know how you do all the things that you do all the time. And I'm looking at him going, dude, he's almost 8. He's like 8, about to be 80. And he's putting me to shame. So, yes, I think we finally have the right man for the job, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore. I wasn't sure at first because I didn't know what was going to happen with these tariffs and everything else either. And my allergies are terrible today again, but partly it's because it's been raining so much that we keep having to cut the yard every other day to make sure that my dog doesn't get lost in my acreage. So, yeah, allergies are terrible. And I'm really trying not to turn my air conditioner on yet because it's not even June. I refuse. But coffee. Thank God for coffee. Supermassiveblackholecoffee.com. 2 promo codes to choose from. So if you decide you want to try it once and then you like it, you can use the second promo code and sign up for recurring orders. Supermassiveblackholecoffee.com. First code route is Rick. Second code KLRN Radio. Don't tell them I told you that we have 2, though. They might get cranky about that. They might. One of them is probably listening right now anyway because I'm friends with the dude that runs the company. So I'm probably going to get a text to them and say, stop doing that. No, you can take the other code away if you want, but I won't stop telling my people how to save money. Just saying. Yes, I'm a little punchy today. It's been a weird week already, and it's only Tuesday. But it's partly because of everything that's been happening. I mean, we had a huge executive order signed yesterday that, based on everything that I can see from it, if Congress doesn't find a way to codify this one super quickly, if we don't hang on to power for the next 8 years or so, it's going to go away. So it needs to be codified. But and I talked about this a little bit on America Off the Rails last night before we get into the rest of it, because everybody that I know on the right yesterday, before the EO was ever announced, well, almost everybody, before the EO was ever announced, they started doing the usual price controls are bad, okay? And I get it, because when he tried to do what he did with insulin, that was a form of price control. So everyone assumed that was the tack he was taking with this newer, broader EO. And we broke it down in detail last night, so I'm not going into too much detail on it on today's show, because you can go back and check the archive if you want a full breakdown on it. But what it basically does is it forces the pharmaceutical companies to stop foisting all of their R&D cost onto us, because everybody else has socialized medicine primarily because of us. So they already have stiff price controls in place. So on top of all of that, not only are they getting, as an example, one of the things I quoted yesterday was the Ozempic price in America versus the Ozempic price in Britain. And I cannot confirm the brand. They only listed it as a fat drug, but I'm assuming it's Ozempic because that's like the hot one right now. So in America, we pay $1,300 per shot. They pay $88 because they have stiff price controls, and the pharmaceutical companies make you and I pay for all their research and development. Now, don't get me wrong. For a time, that made sense because it used to be very limited. Pharmaceuticals would be allowed from country to country because America wanted drugs made in America, Canada wanted drugs made in Canada, Britain wanted drugs made in Britain, because we all had our different versions of the FDA, etc. But when everything got offshored to China, all of that changed. What didn't change was the pricing structure. So you and I are still absorbing all of the cost for the R&D that were built into the fact that it cost us more money to manufacture the drugs here. Now they're making them for pennies on the dollar, and we're still being bent over the table by the pharmaceutical companies for the R&D cost. Trump is making this stop, and he's making it stop in the best way possible, because he's not telling the pharmaceutical companies that you can only charge us so much money. What he's saying is, this R&D cost, we're not paying for all of it anymore. You're going to find a way to spread this around or else. That is not the same thing as a price control. But as a good friend of mine and co-host here on KLRN Radio, Miss Stacey Lennox, pointed out last night, it seems like most Republicans anymore can't hold more than one thought in their head. So as soon as he started talking about an EO about prescriptions, they automatically jumped to price controls. If anything, based on everything that he's done in the last 100 days, over and over again being told it can't be done, it won't work, you're going to bankrupt us, you're going to crash the stock market, we're going to be in a recession in 5 minutes or less, I think the man's earned the benefit of the doubt. And think of it from this perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Whether the left-leaning zombie media wants you to know it or not, most of America agrees with me. And that is happening with him receiving, on average, depending on where you look, 93 to 97% negative press coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you break it down issue by issue, the majority or close to the majority of Americans are with him still, with all of that going on. So imagine how much better he would be able to get things done if not for the fact that the zombie media is still in the pocket of the left-leaning regimes. If we had an actual fair and balanced media, which is what they've told us they always were, Donald Trump would have probably about a 70 to 80% approval rating right now. Because now they're starting to lose the left even on the transgender BS. There's a new poll out about that today. I was going to put it up on the screen, but I don't have it. But basically, even the Democrats, a plurality of them think it is a terrible idea with the gender ideology anymore. The only people that are left, the crazy ones. The ones either are suffering from the issues or know people that are suffering from the issues, don't have the balls to tell them that they need to get mental help. And I'm sorry, if you know somebody that is obviously mentally ill and you are telling them that they're not, then you're not helping them. And you're not helping us. Exactly, BZ. The Middle East path is through commerce, not chaos. That was brilliant. That was brilliant. You know, that was kind of the turning point for the tide for me as well, when I saw even UK was like, yeah, we're not doing that. And now to listen to Kieran Stormer, all of a sudden, Starmer, I think I said Stormer, talking about how illegal immigration is bad. I'm like, is he facing election? Is that what this shift is about? Or is he finally, probably way too late, realizing how badly they've screwed up? Do me a favor, if you haven't done this yet, because we're about to have to take a break in 8 minutes so I can stay on schedule. While we're on break, even if you're on a phone, because you can come back while we're on commercial. I know most of you don't like listening to the damn commercials anyway. Google the number one name in Great Britain right now for boys, and then show me your work when we come back from the break, because I already know the answer, and I just want you to make sure that you know the answer too, because it would probably terrify you if you don't already know the answer to the question. Yeah, well, I know why Newscomb is changing his tune. We'll get into that because that was actually on my things that I didn't get to talk about last night. I know why Governor Hairgel, otherwise known as Newscomb, is changing his tune, because they are setting it up to push Kamilama Hamasnik into the governor role in California, so that clears the decks for him to try to run for president. And I'm mad because I had that in my notes last night too, and Sean basically said it last night, and I'm like, damn it, that was one of the things that I was going to talk about tonight, and I didn't get to it, and now I'm going to have to talk about it tomorrow, but it's going to sound like I took it from him. I promise I didn't. The weirdest thing about working in conservative circles, especially when you work tightly with a group, is you will find tons of overlap. And it doesn't even always happen in the conservative stuff. Like with Juxtaposition, when it first started, it was a Friday night show. Sunday night, for the most part, is our break from politics now. It used to be Friday nights, and we would do shows back to back to back, kind of like we do on Sundays. One of them was Juxtaposition, and then there was one of Jeff's shows, and then Al was doing a show that was not politically aligned at that time, really. So Friday night was usually our break from politics, and we would not share any notes, not talk about what we were not even in the rooms that we have in common would we really talk about the things that we were going to be discussing, because we would always put those things in the show specific groups so the host and everybody could kind of keep up. And there were times that you would swear we had planned the night out because we were all talking about the same topic from different perspectives for that entire 3 hours. And it happened over and over and over again. Well, I mean, he can't come back as governor anyway, I don't think, and he already term limited. So I think he's trying to make sure that he gets a shot at president. I don't think he's going to get it, because if anything, I think, especially now that people are starting to slowly see the results, and I say slowly like it hasn't only been like 100 and some odd days, because that's not slowly, ladies and gentlemen. You guys have to understand, in normal circles, the entire reason that the president's first address, when they first come in and are sworn in and everything else, when they do their first address to Congress, the reason it's not called a State of the Union is because it has been common practice that it usually takes the first full year to get rid of everything the previous administration had done and to start being able to at least start taking credit for some of the changes. So that's why usually in their second year in office and their third and their fourth, they do states of the union, not just a joint session. And in some cases, they didn't even used to do the first joint session. Now it's just kind of become performative for them to do it anyway. But this is huge. The fact that gas prices are plummeting is huge. We're talking about going into the summer months, and I'm seeing gas prices in my area for even non-E10 well below $3 a gallon. I'm seeing diesel prices in my area, depending on where you look, anywhere from just below $3 a gallon to well around $2.50, $2.60, $2.70, depending on what gas station you go to. This is huge because of what the underlying cost that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to our commerce is the cost of fuel. Almost everything that moves things from point A to point B to get them onto your shelves uses one particular type of fuel, and it's diesel. So when it's $4, $5, $6 a gallon, that's part of the reason why you're seeing so many price upticks. Now, I do have some concerns, but my concerns are more with the corporate side of things, because what often happens in corporate America is when people get adjusted to a new price point, they're like, well, since they're already used to this, if we leave it this way for a while, it's going to help us make up some of what we've lost because of these high fuel costs. And then it kind of just stays that way. It's kind of like inflation. The thing that I hate about inflation, and I hate this from both sides, is they tell you that the target rate for inflation is usually somewhere between 2.1 to 2.3%. Problem with that is, think of this like an angle of a cent. That means no matter what you do, they are expecting prices to continue to increase per annum at anywhere between 2.1 to 2.3%. That means they never actually go back down again. Now, what's really bad about the last 4 years is when your angle of ascent goes from, say, this to that. Because then your rate of increase moves up exponentially. So, yes, it's great that that inflation rates are back down again. But we are still seeing prices, even if it is more slowly, increasing from where they were before. This, in my opinion, is still unsustainable. And I think this is one of the reasons why Donald Trump is trying to attack everything that he is all at once. Because I think he's desperately trying to get inflation to, at least for a short time, turn into deflation so we can actually get prices back under control even further again. Is it going to work? I don't really know. Is it part of his plan? I don't really know that either. I'm just going off of instinct, off of everything that I've seen. I think that may be part of his plan. But I also know another part of his plan is trying to strengthen the dollar again. Because right now, part of the reason why you and I have no buying power anymore is because our dollar sucks. Now we've got, and I've even seeing rumors about this in Oklahoma, they're talking about raising the minimum wage here again, which sounds great on paper until you realize what it actually does. Let me put this into perspective for you guys, because this occurred to me the other day. I took my middle daughter, who lives with me still, before we went to her mom's to hang out for Mother's Day, because even though, divorced, we still try to get together for family stuff, because everybody still wants me there. And I'm like, okay, fine. Much as I don't really want it. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, so it occurred to me that, and this was on Mother's Day. I took them to Golden Corral, because everywhere else that we usually do for a nice sit down was like busy with lines out the door. And I'm like, well, Golden Corral, even when they're busy, usually is pretty quick, and we're going to have to head into the city anyway. So it occurred to me that when I first started taking my children to Golden Corral, so many years ago, this was shortly after minimum wage went up to like what was it after it was 3 something? Was it like $4.50? That it was like $5.99 for the all-you-can-eat buffet, which is just about 1.25 hours worth of your labor. It's about the same now. So the prices haven't really increased that much. If you look at it to the amount of time that you are spending working to be able to pay for things. Golden Corral is now about $15 an hour, or $15 a person, at least in my area. The average wage around here is $12 an hour. So while there has been a slight increase, it's not nearly as much as it seems, because you're now doing about 1.3 hours of labor to pay for each meal. This is one of the things that I've been trying to teach my kids and everybody around me now for a while, so they will stop freaking out so much about how expensive a lot of things seem anymore. If you start breaking it down by what you make per hour and how many hours of your labor it's taking to pay for things, you're going to understand that while it looks like it's a lot more money than it used to be, it's almost about the same. Trust me, it looks terrible on paper when I'm taking like 3 adults and 1 5-year-old to Golden Corral and I'm dropping like $65 for the day. I get it. But if you look at it and actually do the math, there hasn't been nearly as much that's happened that you can attribute to inflation as everybody wants you to think. It's all about the government trying to force price controls onto businesses, because that's what a wage increase is. They are increasing the price that they have to pay you for your work. And as my Republican friends were pointing out yesterday, price controls are bad, okay? All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. I know, short show because of Trump, but we've still got 2 hours to go. So, and lots more to talk about. When I come back, I'm going to explain the MALCA thing. Stay tuned.
Everybody, come take my hand, come take my hand. We'll walk this road together through the storm, whatever weather, cold or warm. Let me know that you're not alone, not afraid.
Hello, Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
A company always on the run. A destiny. Oh, it's the rising sun. Oh. I was born, a shotgun in my hands.
And welcome back into the Happy Not Monday Day edition of the Rick Robinson Show. That's right, folks. It is Tuesday, so you've survived Monday. So for those of you working for the weekend, you're one step closer. All right, I'm turning this back up for a minute. Sorry. All right, sorry. Sometimes I pick a bumper and I'm just like, I just kind of wanted to sit here and listen to it. I know. I still love you guys, I promise, but I really love music too. All right, so anyway. So I told you guys I was going to explain the MALCA thing. So we have MAGA, Make America Great Again. MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. Now, thanks to an executive order that I was just digging into while I was listening to Trump speak, we have the MALCA movement, Make American Law Comprehensible Again, which is an amazing thing when you think about it, because he alluded to this a little bit in the Saudi Arabia speech, because he pointed out that the older company, I almost did what he did. He calls us a company all the time instead of a country, but he got it right this time, and I almost screwed it up. So anyway, he said the older a country gets, the more burdened with regulation it becomes. It's the same with our criminal justice system. And I'm sure BZ can attest to this in a second, because I'm about to drop some knowledge on you guys. If you are an American citizen, you probably commit 5 felonies a week and don't even realize that you've done so, because there are so many different things that are illegal now that nobody knows about, because it's just nuts with all the different rules and laws and everything else that we have. You literally can't do anything. Not even, sorry, Ron, you can't do anything. There's an inside joke there for you new folks. You're like, what the hell was that about? I'll explain it someday, just not today. But you can't do anything in this country anymore without breaking a law. And you're right. It's intentional. It's intentional. They do it on purpose. Because if they have you living in fear, you don't want to do anything. Because you have the group of people that are smart enough to understand that there are so many laws and rules now that it's almost impossible to do anything. So most people don't even try. You have the other folks that don't know it and then get caught and go, I didn't even know I was breaking the law. Well, guess what? Through this EO, that's about to change. Trump is ordering that we make all laws transparent and also make sure that the mens rea angle is completely covered. For those of you who don't know what that means, that's a Latin phrase. Basically means your state of mind. So there are different things in legal circles that require for certain charges to be applicable that you have to prove that somebody had a specific state of mind in when they were doing something. This is why you have the different degrees of murder. Because sometimes it happens, but you didn't mean it to happen. Sometimes it happens and you meant it to happen. And sometimes not only did it happen and you meant it to happen, you planned that shit out in advance and have what's called malice of forethought. So this is why this is important. This will change everything for a lot of people. This, to me, is nearly as big, if not bigger, than the fact that we've been trying to push for transparent medical pricing now for the last few years. Because both of those things will change the scope of America for forever. Because here's as somebody that does research, you may not know this, but if you are in an area where you have 5 or 6 different hospitals within, say, 30, 45 minutes to an hour drive, you can Google those individual hospitals and find out what their basic charges are for different procedures. And even though it's a ballpark, you're going to get vastly different answers. Vastly different answers. So the same thing with the legal codes. With as jumbled as they are now, with as confusing as they are, because let's not forget, when our legal system was established, when the founding fathers wrote most of the language that they use for all the legal jargon and everything else, most everybody that was at least in a position of authority in the country understood Latin. That doesn't happen anymore. Now, if you're in like a Catholic school or something, yeah, you've got like 8 or 9th grade Latin, and that may be about the extent of it. But in public education, they don't teach that shit anymore. You know why they don't teach it anymore? Because they don't want you to know. It's no different than them deciding they're not teaching kids how to read or write cursive anymore. It's not because it's not necessary, because technically they're not wrong. It's not really necessary anymore to a point because almost everything is typed now. But you know what else is in cursive? I know. It's a fancy cursive that I can't remember the name of right now. I know that's rare for me to say, but it's true. But still, if you can read basic cursive, you can read our founding documents. If you can't read basic cursive, your only option is to view them online in block lettering, which can be easily edited, adapted, or changed. And this happened with my youngest son. My youngest son showed me a printout that had been pulled from his classroom from a website with our Declaration of Independence in block lettering, and they changed a word. Now, granted, to them it was an innocuous word, but they changed the words "all men are created equal" to "all people are created equal," or equally. Didn't raise anybody's eyebrows but mine. Because I'm like, I get it. You're trying to modernize it a bit. But when you start actually changing the language in those kind of documents, and you're not teaching children the ability to go back and read the original documents so that they can compare and make sure that they match, at least in intent, if not an exact verbiage, then that's a crime, in my opinion. Well, I mean, that's just it, BZ. Almost, I mean, if we look at the actual nationwide numbers, it's terrifying. I don't know about Idaho because I haven't looked it up, but in Oklahoma, the average reading grade level is grade 4. And I used to work for the state through a contracted position through a state university, and they would always ask us And this is before I promoted up a little bit, started training people and doing other things to get me off the phones as much as possible. But they would always ask us, what are things that we could do to improve your ability to communicate with your customers when you're on the phones? Easiest thing to do, stop sending out letters that sound like they're written by freaking Harvard lawyers. Nobody in Oklahoma can read and understand that stuff. If you are legally required to do that, then do that first and then say, for plain English translation of this document, please see page 2. So that people can go to page 2. Because here's the thing. And you know what? They said that my idea wasn't cost effective. But here's the real reason. If you show someone something that they can understand versus something that they cannot, they can start comparing the two, which means eventually, with enough exposure, they will be able to understand the original. They don't want that. And the reason that sent, I mean, honestly, in that very moment, the hair on the back of my neck stood up, because I live in probably one of the reddest of red states. All 77 counties went for Donald Trump in not one election, not 2 elections, but in all 3. And I'm sitting there with the heads of my division, one of which used to come and talk to me just to pass the time, and it would freak everybody else out around me. I can't believe he just comes and talks to you like you're a normal person. Like, he's a normal person, but for some reason that would trip everybody out. And the same thing when I would get called into meetings, they'd be like, "Oh my God, you have a meeting with him? Are you okay? Are you?" Yes, I'm fine. This happens all the time. Calm down. Just breathe. It's going to be okay. I just don't understand why he spends so much time talking to you. Probably because I don't act like that. But I'm sitting there with the head of my division, the people that are under him, and part of a focus group, and they point blank said, we can't do that. First of all, we have to put it out in that language, and second of all, it's not cost effective for us to do the multiple copies. And I'm thinking, well, you just did one in Spanish, so you can't do one in plain English too? But it all goes back to the same thing. They don't want you to understand anything. They want you to be beholden to them for translation. They need you to be beholden to them for every bit of everything that you do. This executive order, as long as it remains in effect, is going to stop that stranglehold to a point, because it's going to make our criminal code legible to everyday Americans again, or at least start that process, instead of feeling completely overwhelmed. I've already, because I'm in several groups with several different business owners, etc., I've already seen people talking about today how this is something that they, as somebody that's part of a small business or somebody that's a small business owner, seeing this come down the pipe today was amazing for them, because they're constantly having to hire people to say, if we do this, is this going to break the law? Instead of being able to research it themselves, because they don't have the time, they don't have the understanding, and it's fucking confusing. But the confusing is intentional, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why it's such a big deal that this executive order is now a thing, because it's going to change a lot of things for me and you. And it's a step in the right direction. All right, so this is from Jeff Charles. This is from Town Hall, and I think this may have come out. It looks like it came out during the summit speech that he just gave. So President Donald Trump on Tuesday announced that the U.S. will lift sanctions on Syria. The president made the announcement during his visit to Saudi Arabia. I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness, Trump told the audience, which then erupted in applause. Saudi Arabian King Mohammed bin Salman and others gave the president a standing ovation at that announcement. The president indicated this decision was influenced by his conversation with Salman and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Oh, what I do for the crown prince, Trump joked. Trump also had some pointed words for Iran, saying it will never have a nuclear weapon, but he did indicate he wished to make a deal with the regime. The choice is theirs to make, he said. This is an offer that will not last forever. The time is right now for them to choose. The United States history of sanctioning Syria goes back to 1979 when it designated its government as a state sponsor of terrorism. The designation came in response to Syria's support for terrorist groups such as Iran-backed Hezbollah. President George W. Bush in May of 2004 imposed further sanctions on the Syrian regime in response to its occupation of Lebanon and support for terrorism. The Obama administration expanded the sanctions after the outbreak of the Syrian civil war in 2011. The president then froze Syrian government assets in the U.S. and prohibited new investments. President Trump signed the Caesar Syria Civilian Protection Act in June of 2020, which levied some of the harshest sanctions on Syria. It targeted several individuals and entities aligned with former Syrian President Bashir al-Assad's regime. All right, so I have to admit, this one I'm not so sure on. But again, I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt. Because I wasn't sure on the tariffs. I didn't understand them, don't know enough about them. Every bit of economics I've ever soaked up as I've been reading through everything is all stuck in the Cloward pivot strategy. So I'm willing to say I don't know about this. I mean, I do know there's supposedly been a regime change there, so maybe that's part of the reason why he's trying to lighten things up a bit, see where they go from here. I don't know. But only time will tell. But yes, that was a shocking moment. That was another shocking moment within that particular speech that he gave earlier today. All right. Let's see. I think we can probably squeeze in one more topic real quick. Oh, so yeah, this is our kind of happy, fun story in a way. On the way out the door for the next break. Biden's aides openly discussed if he would need a wheelchair if reelected, according to a book that was recently released again. Boy, not only are the knives out for Biden, they're coming after David Hogg. We're going to talk about that a little bit after the break, too. A book written by CNN's Jake Tapper and Axios' Alex Thompson reportedly claims that former President Joe Biden's aides discussed wheelchair use if he were reelected in 2024. The book, Original Sin, comes out later this month, according to Axios. Biden's physical deterioration was so severe in 2023 and 2024 that his aides were fixated on the possibility of him needing a wheelchair to make it through a second term of his presidency. At the time, he was 81 years old. Obviously, Biden ended up dropping out of the presidential race, but not until he faced pressure from his own party to do so. After his disastrous debate performance against President Donald Trump, which I believe was done to him on purpose by his own party, because that was the earliest presidential debate in history, as far as I know. The conversations also reveal the White House determination to conceal the reality of Biden's condition at the risk of his own health while he faced a tough re-election bid against Donald Trump. So the book is based on interviews with more than 200 people, mostly Democratic insiders with knowledge of the events that unfolded during the final 2 years of Biden's presidency. Almost all of the interviews took place after the 2024 election. Of course they did, because all the same people that are telling you, we didn't know, and they lied to us too, knew the entire time, and now they're trying to profit off of it, which makes them, in my opinion, even worse than the people that tried to hide it for what they felt were legitimate reasons. Because it's nuts. Now, keep in mind, this is the same guy who's starting to make public appearances again, and his own party is none too happy about that. They want him to shuffle off into the sunset and go hang out on a beach and take a nap. Because, yeah. Because they just don't know. All right. So, let's see. I thought that would take longer than it did, but I guess we have probably time for one more quick hit. This is from Chase Jennings at Red State. Trump has set a new standard for getting things done as president. Leftist heads are exploding all over the country right now as soon as they see that headline. The rate at which President Trump is moving his agenda forward and taking executive action is astounding. Trump is regularly accomplishing in 1 week what a White House used to be satisfied with accomplishing in 1 month. This past week is the perfect example. President Trump announced a new trade deal with both the UK and China, brokered an in-person meeting between Russia and Ukraine, de-escalated a possible catastrophic war between India and Pakistan, secured the release of the final American being held hostage by Hamas, and is taking on Big Pharma in an effort to lower drug prices. President Trump is setting a new standard for what a president can get done in a short period of time. White House Press Secretary Her Hotness, aka Carolyn Levitt, celebrated the week's accomplishments on X and posted all of the following. So, reached trade deal with UK, negotiated trade deal with China, secured ceasefire with the Houthis, secured ceasefire between India and Pakistan, freed American hostage Adan Alexander from Gaza, signed historic EO to slash drug prices. This was even before the one that he did today. Because remember, today he signed an executive order ordering DOJ and all government-related legal law dog officials to do everything they can to make our laws in plain English so people can understand them. So, a historic president delivering historic results. There is much more work to do, and the best is yet to come. They would never admit it, but Democrats must be amazed at what they are seeing, or more specifically, probably terrified, especially after the last 4 years of the Joe Biden presidency. Taken one by one on the accomplishments of the past week, this speed with which he's working cannot be overstated. As BZ pointed out in the chat a few minutes ago, what is happening in DC right now would be considered light speed, and he's not wrong. The trade deal with the UK will open up European markets to U.S. farmers as never before. The White House fact sheet outlines the entirety of the deal, but the graphic from the White House outlines the top line wins. Increases in exports, $5 billion. Increases in external revenue, $6 billion. And then tariffs decreased from 6.1% to 1.8% based on that graphic. We are also beginning to get a cleaner picture of the trade deal with China. I believe Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent deserves the lion's share of credit for this deal. He has been a calming figure for the markets and is led from the front throughout these negotiations. Unlike the Obama and Biden administrations, who were leading from behind while the head is bent over the table. Just saying. The U.S. trade rep, Jamison Greer, has been a major player as well. According to the trade rep X page, they were the ones that discussed the deal. After successful negotiations over the weekend in Geneva, POTUS reached an agreement with China to retain U.S. reciprocal tariffs on China, reduce Chinese retaliation, and eliminate harmful countermeasures, and establish a path for future discussions regarding opportunities for U.S. exports. The agreement is a win for the American people, protecting the U.S. economy while charting a course to fair, balanced, and reciprocal trade with China. Amazingly, these deals aren't even half of what was accomplished last week. President Trump also secured the release of American hostage Adan Alexander, which we talked about last night, who was the last American hostage being held by Hamas. Everyone should watch Adan being reunited with his family. I'm not crying, or I wasn't when I was watching the video. Somebody was cutting onions, I swear. President Trump is also working to get peace talks started between Ukraine and Russia. Before you downplay how significant that is, just remember there were no discussions happening at all under the previous administration. The AP highlighted the hopes for a meeting. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Tuesday that he will be waiting for his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, in the Turkish capital this week to conduct face-to-face talks about the more than 3-year war amid heavy pressure from the U.S. and European leaders to reach a settlement. We are still awaiting Vladimir Putin's response, but the pressure is on. Again, the effort here by President Trump can't be understated. Whether you like him or not, President Trump is clearly working every day to make America great again. For Trump and the White House, Big Pharma is on deck, and he'll work to lower drug prices for Americans. I understand the conservative argument against forcing Big Pharma's hand to lower prices, but something has to change, and that's the message here. The courts will also have a say in what Trump is allowed to do. I say we let it play out, and I couldn't agree more. All right, we are up against a break. We're going to have to take one. My name's Rick Robinson. This is my show. We've got about 90 minutes left in this one. Please, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you're liking the feed, sharing the feed. Sneak off while we're on commercial break and go hit the subscribe button on both Rumble and YouTube if you haven't done that yet. We're still trying to build our audiences over there. For some reason, we get a lot of attention on X, and everybody else is like, yeah, y'all suck. I don't really care. I'm just glad people are paying attention to us. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
I'm Jordan Klinger, an attorney at McIntyre Law. The decision to hire an attorney after you've been injured is important. The decision on who to hire is even more important. At McIntyre Law, we will settle a case if the offer to our client is fair. Partial justice is no justice at all. At McIntyre Law, we are committed to obtaining full justice for our clients. Contact McIntyre Law at 405-917-5200 or visit us at mcintyrelaw.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Home to you and me. Let's build a home, a family. Create a future, memories. Let's
This bumper's your not so subtle reminder to come back and hang out with us tonight right here on KLRN Radio. First Floor, the cocktail lounge, hosted by the beautiful Aggie Rican and Brad with the good hair. I think our guests are gone, so I think they're back. I think. If not, I'll try to let you guys know. But after that, we have the Manorama panel kicking off at 10 p.m. Eastern. And then that's usually done by about 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So when we're done with that, just go ahead and go hang out over in the SHR Media YouTube and go hang out with BZ's Berserk Bobcat. So that's all right, because even if you can't do it tonight, because trust me, his show's a lot more fun live. I wish we could figure out a way to make everything work. schedule-wise, because this show's a lot more fun live. Because I get to tease him and interact with him in the chat like he's doing with me right now. But I can't really make that work on Tuesdays. So we usually run the Tuesday show Wednesday nights as our closing act. Then we carry him live on Thursdays. Either way, whether you go sneak off and listen to him a little bit tonight or come back and hang out with us tomorrow, you're still going to win. Also, I would like to point out that Mr. BZ has been dropping some Latin in the chat. I don't know if it made it completely in everywhere, but I was able to see it on the X side while I was doing things. And yeah, he pointed out the difference between Millennium in se and Millennium prohibitum. Basically, the first one means it's evil no matter what the law tells you. Second one is it's bad because the law says it's bad. And yes, I do understand some Latin. Anyway. One of my aunts was a nurse. She kind of made me understand it, whether I wanted to or not. Anyway, so we're back. We're live. And I just realized I never turned my camera back on. Some of you were cheering for that, and I'm mad at you. Not really. I have a face made for radio, and I've embraced this. For some reason, everything's moving towards video now, which, not that this is part of the topic that I was going to open this hour with, or the second half of the hour with, and I should probably wait, so I'll put a pin in this. But there's an interesting argument happening in all my podcast groups now that I'm in, because, you know, there's groups that allow us to promote. There's groups that talk about wanting to have specific guests. There's groups that are talking about building podcasts, etc. Now there's an argument of you shouldn't call the show that you do with video a podcast because that's not an actual podcast. And I'm like, well, actually, anyway, yes, I will actually, people. You don't believe me, just go back and listen to last week's Rick and Orty, because I will actually, even the Amish one. Didn't realize I had done it until he pointed it out, but it does happen. All right, so without further ado, we do have a This Week in Democracy that's going to be covering the next topic that I was going to hit on anyway. The interesting things afoot with Democrats and detention facilities coming up right now. So hang out. Here we go.
The DHS also says that, in their words, you were body slamming an ICE officer. Is that what we're looking at? Is that what happened?
Absolutely no. I mean, I honestly do not know how to body slam anyone. There's no video that supports me body slamming anyone.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America. Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in Democracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. What you're looking at right now is a still from a body camera taken last Friday outside of the Delaney Hall ICE facility in Newark, New Jersey, where Newark's Mayor Ras Baraka was arrested for allegedly trespassing at this federal immigration facility. This is already a highly controversial issue given the protests going on about anti-immigration reform and ICE officials that we've been talking about for months since the Trump administration took office. Well, it's about to get even more heated because the Trump administration has said that they may be looking into more arrests coming out of this clash with ICE officials, including, as I play the body camera now, this woman that you're going to see coming up in the red blazer, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. That's the one you see throwing elbows right there as we slow it down. Maybe just stop it right there. LaMonica McIver may be facing federal charges for this altercation with a federal ICE official. And let's just say that this has poured more fuel onto a already exploding powder keg. We're going to talk more about what's going on with these possible charges against Congresswoman McIver. We're going to look into her history. We're going to look at both sides of what happened in this altercation, hear from both of them. But before we do all that, I'm going to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. Well, maybe that's the wrong thing to say. Gently press the notification bell so you don't miss any of the shows. And if you like what you see here in this or any other video on the channel and you want to help us grow, smash that thumbs up button. Darn it, I did it again. Press the thumbs up button. Like, comment, share the show with your friends. All that really, really good stuff, because we're on the road to 3,000 subscribers thanks to you guys feeding that YouTube algorithm. First thing I'm going to do is show you the body cam footage. Now, this was secured by Benny Johnson. And there's going to be a moment within it where it slows down to show Congresswoman McIver interacting with that ICE official in a very hostile manner. And then it's going to play on to show what was said by the Congresswoman. And let me just say, if you have little ones in the room, earmuffs.
Don't you know who I am?
Obviously, there's a lot going on there. I'm going to try to break down some of it. I don't think anybody looks good here at this point, but especially not Congresswoman McIver, who is screaming, who is cursing, "Don't put your hands on me, MFer," saying that she's going to make a complaint. I think at one point she was screaming grape, which you're on YouTube, you know what that means. And just not a good look. This isn't the first time we've seen Congresswoman McIver on this channel. The last time we saw her was outside of some federal administration headquarters talking about how she wants to be at war with the Trump administration.
Flashback.
And let them know, especially the Republicans, that we will not take this. We will fight back. Fight back. Fight back. And as I close out, because I know we've been out here for a long time, and goddamn it, shut down the Senate. We are at war.
End of flashback.
I'm doing my best to judge very slowly here. Right now, it's not looking good for Congresswoman McIver. We saw those elbows up that we thought we were getting from the Canadian Prime Minister, but apparently we got from a New Jersey Congresswoman. And we also saw that clip now of her really spewing some antagonistic rhetoric, some violent rhetoric prior to this altercation a few months back. I'm doing my best not to prejudge her here because she did go on to social media to say that she was arriving at this facility to do congressional oversight.
Hey everyone, it's your Congresswoman LaMonica McIver representing New Jersey's 10th Congressional District. I am literally on my way right now to Delaney Hall to conduct an oversight visit here at this detention center. We've been seeing on the news all of the lack of transparency and chaos that has been coming out of this facility. They have, neglected to let city officials in, to let the mayor in. Code enforcement to fire inspectors have been denied access to this building. And as your congressional member, it is my duty to conduct an oversight visit to see what is happening inside this facility. So I'm taking you on the journey with me. Stay tuned. And myself, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, and Congressman Rob Menendez. We're here conducting an oversight visit, which we have the power to do as congressional members. Statutory authority. And so that is what we're here for, and we're waiting to speak to a supervisor to let us in here because, as you can see, they will not let us in.
So let's take her at her word. She's there to conduct congressional oversight. I don't know what a congresswoman is doing to see if local city government permits and code enforcement is done, but be that as it may, let's take her at her word. I found this on ice.gov. These are rules for facility visits from members of Congress and their staff. All visitors are expected to comply with facility rules, procedures, and instructions from ICE personnel on site. Did that look to you like she was following the rules of ICE personnel on site? I'll leave that for you to decide. As outlined in the Consolidated Appropriations Act 2020, none of the funds appropriated or otherwise made available to the Department of Homeland Security by this act may be used to prevent any of the following persons from entering for the purpose of conducting oversight. Any facility operated by or for DHS used to detain or otherwise house aliens, or to make temporary modification at any such site, etc., etc. And you see number 1, member of Congress. So she's allowed in there to do oversight. Subsection B, nothing in this section may be construed to require a member of Congress to provide prior notice of the intent to enter the facility. So she doesn't even have to give notice for the purpose of conducting oversight. She can just show up there. That's the law. With respect to individuals described in subsection A2, which is members of the staff of these members of Congress or an employee thereof, those people have to give 24 hours notice. As we continue down here, conduct, safety, security, and good order are always primary considerations in a detention facility, and visitors must be properly identified and attired. All visitors are subject to search upon entering the facility and at any time during the tour and the visit. Introduction of contraband or other criminal violations may lead to criminal prosecution of a visitor. Did Congresswoman McIver make a criminal violation when she had elbows up going through to try to enter the facility past ICE officials? Again, I leave that for you to decide.
But wait, there's more.
There's also this to be considered. ICE employees may not authorize the use of ICE detention facilities for political activities, which is defined as activities directed toward the success or failure of a political party, candidate for partisan political office, or partisan political group. This includes town meetings, political rallies, speeches, fundraisers, press conferences, photo ops, and other similar activity. Moreover, the duration of the visit is set by the ICE field office based on operational requirements of the facility on the day of the visit. So when you hear about this issue of these members of Congress and other officials storming the gates when they're opened up to allow a bus to enter the facility, that is a requirement of the facility on the day of the visit to be managed, an operational requirement. So if they're stopping members of Congress from going in at that moment, they're probably well within ICE to stop them at that moment. And then it devolved from there. And you go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. Let's start with Tricia McLaughlin. She's a spokesperson for ICE.
Thanks, Victor, for having me. I'm glad I can be here to actually give viewers the facts. What happened is that these members of Congress, including the mayor as well, and a mob of protesters, as there was a bus full of detainees going through the gate, they stormed the gate and actually entered the first security checkpoint. This put law enforcement at risk, and this actually put the detainees as well at risk. If any official, including these members of Congress, want to enter the facility and take a tour, DHS is more than accommodating, but just because you're a member of Congress does not mean you can break the law, trespass, put law enforcement at risk, and storm the detention facility. I have yet to hear anyone on this network actually talk about who is in this detention facility. There are members of MS-13, known terrorists, murderers, child rapists. There are some of the worst in this detention facility, and I'm still very confused why these Democrats are so hell-bent on getting these heinous actors out of this facility when we have the proper permitting. And actually, in that press conference, those members of Congress actually noted the great conditions of this facility that our ICE enforcement officers so bravely operate.
It's pretty cut and dry. McLaughlin's statement on CNN mirrors the written statement that Homeland Security issued on the day of the incident as well. And now we stick with CNN to see what Congresswoman McIver has to say in response.
The DHS also says that, in their words, you were body slamming an ICE officer. Is that what we're looking at? Is that what happened?
Absolutely no. I mean, I honestly do not know how to body slam anyone. There's no video that supports me body slamming anyone. We, as Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman said, we were simply there to do our job. Therefore, oversight visit and what you're watching in a video, and we don't have all of the body cam, and we hope that all of the body cam is released. It was a very tense situation. It unfortunately did not have to be like that. They created that confrontation. They created that chaos and then ultimately went to arrest the mayor of the largest city of New Jersey, who is my mayor and my constituent. And it was very difficult to watch that happen. But absolutely, I did not body slam anyone.
And now I'm going to give you my unvarnished opinion on this whole situation. Congresswoman McIver is in the finding out phase of her fucking around. It's all fun and games when you're at a protest and you're being loud and you're screaming into a microphone, "We are at war." It's another thing to go outside of a federal facility where the ICE officials are in control of entry and exit and conduct within that facility, and to do what she's doing here, throwing elbows, body slamming into a member of ICE. Now, she said she didn't body slam anyone, probably thinking we're all stupid because we all have seen WWE pro wrestling body slamming people, and she claims not to know what body slamming is, but she's definitely throwing some bows here. I think that this merits an investigation at the very least into whether or not the Congresswoman assaulted everyone. She claims that she was there for congressional oversight, and indeed she is entitled to be there at any moment without notice to do just that. She also claimed in the video that she was doing this on the basis of some alleged violation of local government rules for permitting and code enforcement. To me, that is not a good faith basis to do this sort of oversight. You're not doing oversight to see if local laws are being enforced. You're doing it to see if federal laws are being enforced. And that's what it comes down to. What was the true reason that she was there? We saw that there was this video of pushing and shoving at the gate, the cursing, and the aftermath thereof. We saw the beforehand of her saying that she was going there for oversight, and there was speaking being done with a speech outside.
And myself, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, and Congressman Rob Menendez. We're here conducting an oversight visit, which we had the power to do as congressional members.
If you go back to what I was talking about with the considerations for visiting an ICE facility, that itself is a no-no. Do your job. Don't give speeches. Don't bring in cameras. Don't be there for a protest or grandstanding. Do your damn job. Congresswoman McIver may have been there to do her damn job, but that's not the only reason she was there. She was grandstanding. She was doing photo ops. She was there to be seen being the resistance to the Trump administration and there to continue the narrative about mistreatment of illegal immigrants at ICE detention facilities. Be that as it may, should she get arrested for this? I'm not so sure. Is she a buffoon? Absolutely, definitely. I'm saying no to arrest right now because the only body cam footage we have seen thus far is this, and this has been clearly manipulated by Benny Johnson. We saw the slow-mo there. And to me, it doesn't show the entire story. I bet you she was there for much longer than the minute or so that is shown in this footage. So until I see the full body camera, and until I hear from the ICE officials who were manhandled here, who were pushed and shoved around, who were screamed at, who were in charge of the facility, and explain how they were enforcing their rules, much like that directive I found online on ice.gov, at that point, then I'll start opining about whether or not there should be an arrest here or not. There's still room for both sides to let cooler heads prevail here, and I certainly hope that happens. But if it doesn't, Congresswoman McIver might be reaping the whirlwind here. And that's just my opinion on this whole situation. I know I'm being a little wishy-washy here.
No backbone. All squishy.
Mainly because I'm an attorney and I don't want to say anything definite black and white until I see at least most of the public evidence out there. But what do you think about all this? Do you think that Congresswoman McIver should get arrested and booked in and processed like every other common criminal out there? Or do you think that cooler heads should prevail and she should get a pass on this because she let her passion outweigh her reason? Let me know what you guys think. And as always, like and share this video with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Gently hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about this situation and every other instance of shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in Dumb-mocracy.
views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.
All right, folks, so there you have the most recent edition of This Week in Democracy. And I will say this, because I do personally know that Gene is an attorney, but in my opinion, he is being a little excessively squishy, but I kind of understand. Since I'm not an attorney, yes, throw the book at the bitch. Throw all of them. All of them. All right. So one more quick hit before we take the top of the hour break, because I just saw this. And then we'll get into something a little bit more substantive on the other side of the break. So apparently, crying Chucky Schumer is putting a hold on Trump's DOJ nominees. Chucky Schumer, Democrat New York, is looking for redemption, but this ain't it, sir. The leader of Senate Democrats got taken to the woodshed by his own base for caving on the shutdown fight when he had to do, which he had to do since he didn't have any leverage. Plus, he also knew if they shut everything down, Doge would be like, well, if we don't need it, we can do that. We can get rid of that. Trump knew it. Senate Republicans knew it. They let him beat his chest when the initial procedural vote failed to get 60 votes and then waited for him to reverse course, which happened less than 36 hours later. It was the first sign that Democratic Party was fractured, leaderless, and without a message, which has been a beautiful thing to watch. I hope they never learn the lesson. So the New York Democrat is trying to get back on his party's good side by clocking out President Trump's nominees for the Department of Justice, placing a hold over specifically because of the 747 story, which is fake news. We'll get into that after we get back from the break, and then we'll move into the other story because I don't have enough time to get completely into this one now, and it wasn't going to be as short of a read as I thought. All right, so we're going to take a break. My name's Rick Robinson. This is my show. We do this thing every Tuesday through Friday. So, yes, technically for me, this is my Monday for the daily, but I did a show last night, too. America Off the Rails. So you're going to get two of those this week. You got an extra one on Monday. Then we have the regular off week for Inquiry, America Off the Rails show on Wednesday night, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. Did I mention my name's Rick Robinson? I'm a workaholic. My last meeting was for never ago. Be right back. Oh, yeah, before I forget, this should give you ample time to get up, stretch your legs, grab a drink, maybe smoke a little bit of what helps you think, unless you're working. But then again, even if you are, I'm most likely not your boss, and even if I am, I don't judge. We'll be right back. Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risked their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding. Because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Helps if I remember that I'm muted. Welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, happy Not Monday Day. This is the Tuesday edition of the Rick Robinson Show, live right here on KLRMradio.com. And speaking of It Ain't Me, Chucky Schumer, definitely not built to be waving the red, white, and blue. All right, so we're going to get back into where we left off. Senate Minority Leader Chucky Schumer, Democrat, New York, said Tuesday that he is placing a hold on all Trump Justice Department nominees as he seeks answers on the administration's plan to accept a luxury jet from Qatar to be used as Air Force One. There's so much more to this story, and we'll get to that in a minute. In light of the deeply troubling news of a possible Qatari-funded Air Force One and the reports that the Attorney General personally signed off on this clearly unethical deal, I am announcing a hold on all DOJ political nominees until we get more answers, Schumer announced from the Senate. Well, the minority leader presented a list of questions and demands he says the Trump administration must respond to before he lifts his hold on nominees. Did I mention we should just nuke the fucking filibuster and be done? President Trump has told the American people that this is a free jet. Does that mean the Qataris are delivering a ready on day one plane with all the security measures already built in? If so, who installed those security measures? And how do we know they were properly installed? Schumer asked, if this is, as President Trump promised, a free jet, will the Qataris pay for those highly sensitive installations, or will American taxpayers cover the cost? Schumer can't block these nominees with this tactic, but he can slow down their consideration. It's not really clear if the judicial nominee would have already been held for various other reasons, considering the vast majority of Trump nominees have been held in this way already. So what you're saying is, Mr. Minority Leader, that you've chosen to weaponize fake news. That's what you're saying. That's what you're telling the American people right now. First, it's another sign that the Democrats are desperate. And I think you guys picked a wrong Alamo. I'm just saying. This was a bad last stand for you. So this is a post from Viva Frey side of the article that I'm kind of skimming while we talk about it. It saves taxpayers $400 million. Boeing couldn't deliver on time or on budget. Can you please kidnap yourself and not find yourself? That is a pretty nice way of saying, go fuck yourself. All right. So this story was reported on by JD Asoe1 in the Wall Street Journal 10 days ago. Then today, Jean-Carl decided to make up a bunch of lies. So here's the problem. There's so much of this that is not being discussed in these fake news articles, like the fact that, and look, even I have some questions about the security upgrades. Who wouldn't? But when Boeing has been promising this now for what are we going on, like 7, 8 years? And they're so far behind and off budget that they've cost us tons and tons and tons of money. And the reason Pam Bondi signed off on this is because it's not being gifted to the Trump family. It's not even being gifted directly to the administration. It's being gifted to the United States Air Force, who is the owner of all Air Force One planes, past, present, and future, until they get designated to the libraries that they eventually go hang out in. So there's no direct tie to the Trump family. This will be a jet that will likely remain in service for quite some time, since it's much newer than anything that we have, and Boeing still hasn't been able to hit its deliverables, thanks primarily to DEI. I said what I said. Don't look at me in that tone of voice. When you start talking about people that are there doing inspections and they're watching workers jump up and down on the wings to make sure the panels fit, yeah, we're talking DEI, folks. Big time. Big time. So, yeah, Chucky Schumer, if this is the hill you want to die on, plant your flag, bitch. We don't care anymore. Because from everything that I can see, this is an above-board deal. And it's saving the taxpayers money, not costing them money. But of course, you don't want anybody to know that, because you're hoping everybody's still ingesting everything from the fake news. And the problem that you're running into over and over and over again is, guess what? Nobody's really listening to those assholes anymore, which means most of the time they're not really listening to you anymore either. All right. So there's a couple of different Scott Jennings clips that I'm going to be playing here in just a second, as soon as I get this squared away, that are kind of tied to the white genocide stories out of Africa, which according to the left, according to Grok, aren't necessarily happening either until you read past his first paragraph, and then he actually is himself. So here's one of the clips, because apparently there's a lot of chaos going around with this stuff. So we're going to talk about this a little bit because I find this absolutely amazing.
The South African president says the people arriving in the U.S. today do not fit the definition of refugees, and that what Trump has been told about their persecution is false. The South African president said...
Is it really? Because guess what? That's not true. And here's another clip. Let me get it queued up here. Oh, of course you're going to do that now. Why do you always do that to me? Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me so? I swear I will never know. And yes, I'm riffing right now. Wow, because, dude, my whole computer's frozen. That was weird. All right, so let's do this. Okay. Too many different
things. The apartheid
things.
system ended, and they reformed their constitution under the great leader of Nelson Mandela, and that allowed for a racial reconciliation, one that this country has yet to do, but South Africa did it. The apartheid system ended, and they reformed their constitution under the great...
Except, and I've got some data, because I know BZ's saying he's been having a hard time getting some data too. But so that there is stuff out there, because there's all kinds of articles that are being posted showing all the crosses on the side of the roads in Africa, talking about each one of these crosses represents a white farmer who was killed for one reason or the other, and it may not necessarily be for exactly how it's being portrayed, but there is in fact a white genocide going on, so we may or may not get into that in a minute if we have time. But right now I'm still fighting with my computer. So one moment, please. Where did the other... I just saw another Scott Jennings piece. And now I can't find it. Where did you go? Was it over here? Oh, okay. So I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Let's talk about what we're talking about right now. I'm actually going to just read you, if I can still find it, what I saw that Grok put out, if I have it anywhere. Because I found it in somebody's post. I guess I could just ask him the question. All right, so let's see what he says while I'm trying to see what else I can figure out here. I think there may have been another clip buried in here anyway. Yep, that's the one. That's one of the ones I was looking for. Hang on, I found it.
Okay.
I found it. Now this one's a bit longer. We're gonna play it in its entirety. I'm trying to get it to do what I need it to do. And here we go.
Okay. So if you think about the history of South Africa, it being under an apartheid system, where I think it is 80% of the population that are Black Africans only own 4% of the land. That is because they were put in shanty towns and moved into areas where they had no rights. And so 30 plus years ago, they went through a the apartheid system ended, and they reformed their constitution under the great leader of Nelson Mandela, and that allowed for a racial reconciliation, one that this country has yet to do, but South Africa did it, and they reformed their constitution, and part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land back. that is not what the Afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans, and so who are not originally from Africa, who colonized South Africa also. And so that is what they are saying is discrimination. Now, if the Constitution in South Africa is discriminatory, they have their checks and balances in that land, just like we do. And that is for them to, so if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They are. They're leaving to come here.
No. They can
These
leave
refugees
and go,
are coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you against them coming here?
Holland, probably.
Holland.
Are you
yes.
against them coming here?
I'm against the hypocrisy of this administration.
No, that's not the question. The question is, are you against them coming here?
If there was actually a genocide happening, like there is in other places in Sudan, in the Congo, I'm not opposed for Congolese and for the Sudanese to come to Africa, just like I'm not opposed to Venezuelans and South Americans coming to America if they are fleeing and looking for asylum. What I am
just
against,
these 50 people you're
what
against.
I am against, it's not about being against them. What I am against is that they are being given special treatment when there is not a genocide happening in South Africa, and they just don't like the law of the land.
Well,
so you know what they tell people?
All right. So, yes, Scott Jennings making some great points there as chaos began to erupt, as it normally does when he's on the panels in CNN. But here's some interesting information. And this is from Grok itself, himself, if you anthropomorphize. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Since he's listening right now, I probably will. All right. So here's one of the biggest things that makes it impossible to verify whether there is, in fact, any type of a white genocide going on in South Africa, because in South Africa, they don't break down their crime statistics by race. So that's why it's so easy for everybody on the interwebs to say, well, it's not really happening and there's no data to support it. Yeah, because they don't break down their crime statistics by race. But if you look at their actual crime statistics, according to AfriForum, 49 farm murders occurred in 2023, but South Africa also has one of the highest violent crime rates globally, with 45.7 murders per 100,000 people in 2023 and 2024. According to South African police services statistics, farm attacks are a real issue, but the claim that they constitute a genocide targeting whites is not supported by evidence. But here's the problem: it actually is. Through inference, you can draw your own conclusion. She just admitted that only 4% of Black Africans own property in that country. So if there are, in fact, farm-related murders, who do you think they're predominantly happening against, ladies and gentlemen? This is why they don't teach critical thinking anymore. Because if you know how to do it, if you get your information from multiple sources and take all the little pieces and put them together, you can build your own puzzle. And you can see the complete picture. And the more you do it, the more you're going to learn to trust your instincts. And all you needed was that data right there. According to South African Police Services data, there are, in fact, a predominant large number of farm-related murders. If only 4% of Black people in Africa own property, what's the inference? This isn't hard. But they want it to be hard. I've talked about this over and over again on this show, so I'm not going to go into great detail on it again, but I would like to remind you that our modern education system as we use it today was founded by the Rockefeller family. What nobody talks about, because they don't teach it in history anymore, because it doesn't serve their purposes, because the government likes the fact that we are basically being indoctrinated, is before they founded our modern education system, they started commissioning studies to find out exactly how long it takes to quote unquote brainwash someone or to program them. And the predominant answer across every study that they did was at least 12 years. Now, before the Rockefellers started doing all their altruism, the average grade was 8 for high school. And then people usually started either finding a route to go into college or going into an apprenticeship program so they could go to college eventually. Until then. So yes, BZ just found one of the stories that I was about to mention. This is from Newsweek. There's a white farmer killed every 5 days in South Africa. Authorities do nothing. Again, the inference is there if you're able to think for yourself. When they admit to you that only white people there are really still allowed to own property, and all the murders that are happening on farms, you do the math. When you have a leader in South Africa screaming death to white folks, using the word that they use for them there, it's not really much of an inference. It's just a fact. So, yes, we are bringing white South African people to America to save them from genocide. The exact same excuse the Democrats have used over and over and over again, but they're acting as if we are flinging the gates wide and letting hundreds of thousands of people in a month, when in reality it's like, what are we at, 49, 50, 60? That's insane to me. All right, so just for fun, we're going to take a deeper dive on this Newsweek article because BZ actually found something that I had earlier and lost it when I changed gears and started running the conference. So farm attacks in South Africa surge after F sings Kill the Boer song. Remember, we were just talking about that. And dude, too many pop-ups. I hate this. Is why I only use certain sites, because there are way too many pop-ups and shit anymore. The F song, which calls for the killing of white farmers, has been widely condemned by South Africans and international leaders. The F has defended the song, saying it is a struggle song. The supposed increase in farm attacks, and even they've just used the word supposed, has caused fear and anxiety among South African farmers. The increase in attacks, according to the TAUSA, 35 farm murders had already been committed in the first 7 months of this year. Many people have also been seriously injured and tortured. This is in comparison to last year's 24 murders in the same period. So AfriForum had previously filed a hate speech case against the EFF, but Equality dismissed it last year. However, the organization is currently appealing the court's decision. All right, so here's a clip. Here's a bit of a clip about this, I think. So we're going to play that. Hang on. Let me make sure it actually works so I can figure out if I need to do what I've been having to do lately. So here we go. Dude, it's already almost time for another break. That was weird. This show today feels like it's going by almost as fast as my hour show did last night. It's just weird.
I prefer to do these videos in Afrikaans because it's my home language as an Afrikaner, or a Boer, as we are known in the rest of the world, living in South Africa. But I will do this in English because there is such an international outcry currently about this past weekend's gathering of the economic freedom fighters and the speech made by Julius Malema, which was followed by his chanting of one of his apparent favorite chants: kill the Boer, kill the farmer, shoot to kill a man, accompanied by hand gestures of people firing guns and imitating the sounds of gunfire. And it's important to talk about this and to give some context about the situation in South Africa. Now, what was shocking about this is, firstly, the fact that Malema seems to believe, Julius Malema, the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, the third largest political party in South Africa, seems to believe that it's appropriate and it should be welcomed for him to make chants like these. But it's also shocking that there was basically zero outcry about this in the media in South Africa. Currently there's a big outcry, and that's because of the tweets by Elon Musk about this. And the story in South Africa at the moment is not that Julius Malema is calling for Boers or Afrikaners or whites, as some people say, to be killed, but that Elon Musk has called on Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, to do something or to say something. And I saw a news report this morning which said that he is accusing, Elon Musk is accusing the South African president of saying nothing in quotation marks, as if it's debatable of whether he said nothing, or as if it's a sort of a false accusation, when it is in fact the case that the president is completely silent about this. As a matter of fact, he's not just silent about this, he has openly denied the problem when he spoke in New York in 2018, and he said that there are no farm killings in South Africa. Now, what we also know is that after the chanting of this chant over the past weekend, there has been 2 farm attacks and 1 farm murder. An elderly man was severely beaten. From what we know, he was beaten with a pipe, and eventually he was murdered when his throat was slit. His wife is in a severe condition, in a critical condition in the hospital at the moment, just a day or a few days after this chant was made. And we have seen this in the past, after high-profile cases of hate speech, incitement against minorities, particularly farmers, or white farmers, or the Afros. We have seen in the past, and we have done some research on this, that there is an increase in farm attacks and farm murders, and this is exactly what happened now. This same Julius Malema who made this chant has said earlier that he and his followers intend to slit the throat of whiteness in South Africa, which is quite telling or significant given that a farmer's throat was actually slit after he chanted this song. This same Malema has said repeatedly, at least on 3 occasions, that he is not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now, and stating that he might one day, stating in court under oath last year, that he might one day call on his followers to actually go out and slaughter white people. When he was questioned about this in court, he explicitly said that he cannot make an oath that he will not call on his supporters to slaughter white people in South Africa, because he foresees a possibility that he might one day do so. And what makes this worse is that this same court case, which was about this particular song, Kill the Bird, Kill the Farmer, the end result thereof, at least up to where we are now, was that this song is not hate speech. And now the question is, if you single out a group of people based on their identity, based on their ethnicity, and you say those people must be killed, and you chant this in a chant after you just made a speech about how everything in the country should be blamed on these people, and how everything that is wrong with you, the followers of his party, of him and his party, everything that is wrong with them should be blamed on these people, this small minority. Then you go out and you chant this song, kill the Boer, kill the farmer, shoot to kill a man. You make hand gestures imitating a gun, you make sounds, noises imitating a machine gun. If that is not hate speech, the question then is, what is hate speech? There's basically nothing left on the scale or the scope or the spectrum that could be regarded as hate speech if this isn't hate speech. But a South African court found that it isn't hate speech. And this matter is now going on appeal. AfriForum is taking it on appeal. It will be heard in the Supreme Court of Appeals in South Africa on the 4th of September. And it's important to add that this same judge who found that it isn't hate speech also found that another court might probably reach a different conclusion. So the matter isn't finished. It will still go to court in Bloemfontein later this year. And of course we will keep you updated on that. But there's another matter that should be pointed out here, and that is the role of the South African Human Rights Commission, which is very alarming and shocking. The Human Rights Commission, according to the South African Constitution, should uphold human rights, to ensure by implication also that minorities are protected, and should take a firm stance against hate speech. When Julius Malema said that in 2016 for the first time that he's not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now, it was taken to the Human Rights Commission, and the Human Rights Commission found in 2019 that this statement of his is not hate speech. And the reason why it's not hate speech is because he's black. And because, according to the South African Human Rights Commission, the race of the accused should be taken into consideration and should be an important factor when determining whether something is hate speech or not. Now, this is blatant racism. It's blatant double standards, but it's much more than double standards. It's the pursuit of a very dangerous narrative. And we have a situation in South Africa where...
All right, so there you heard it from somebody who's actually there. I was going to let more of that play, but there's another story that piqued my interest. So Tesla just jumped like a mofo. So if you are an investor there, you're probably pretty happy right now. Apparently, there was a huge announcement made by Musk after we tuned away from the event, but that's because my C-SPAN feed only was programmed for Trump's speech. So as soon as it stopped, it stopped. Otherwise, we probably would have stayed with it. But here's a little snippet that'll take up the rest of the time that I was going to play that other video for, which is why you'll notice there's a little ticker at the bottom that says we're going commercial free. We can do that for a few different reasons. One is because of sponsors like Genesis Gold. You can get information from them by scanning a QR code that I'll be putting up here in a moment through the video. Also, supermassiveblackholecoffee.com, which I've already spoke about once today, and our good friends at Testudo Pest Control, who I use because I live in the middle of nowhere to make sure that I don't have rodents, creepy crawlies, all the things that you have to deal with in the country. If you happen to be, actually, I just realized I don't have that on this Chiron because it's on the video one. So let me fix that real quick too, since we're going to basically stay there through the end of the show. One moment, please. All right. So, yes, thanks to our good friends at Testudo Pest Control. You don't really have to hear any more ads for the rest of the show unless you're listening on a replay because I can't control the ads that Spreaker inserts. And those are another way we make money, so don't yell at me about those. 405-281-8500. If you're in the greater Oklahoma City metro area, tell them Rick sent you, and I'm sure they'll probably cut you a sweet little deal. I use them. They're even the folks that come out and take care of me for special events, etc. They spray the property all the time just to make sure that I don't have any critters or creepy crawlers. So again, that's Testudo Pest Defense. They changed the name on me, and I keep saying it the other way. 405-281-8500. All right, so without further ado, here's Mr. Musk. As soon as I remember to change this back over again. Talking about something that really piqued my interest when I saw it not too long ago, but he's making a more official announcement about it now. Kind of makes him, even though I live in the middle of nowhere and I'd probably only be able to let my car do a couple of runs before it had to come home and get plugged back in again. This is kind of a big deal for me, and it almost makes me wish I had a Tesla.
My friend, please. Please have a seat. Now, I'm sure we can do a better welcome than that to Elon Musk in Saudi Arabia. There you go. That's the spirit.
Thank you.
Elon, my dear friend, we're honored to have President Trump. We're honored under the sponsorship and guidance of His Royal Highness to celebrate a U.S.-Saudi and a Saudi-U.S. relationship that is 92 years old, about how we move from an oil-based economy to an innovation-based economy powered by wonderful technologies that definitely you're one of the pioneers in this industry. We just showed to His Royal Highness some of your Optimus robots.
Yeah.
And to President Trump.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Tell me about them.
Yes, so we just showed several of our Tesla Optimus robots to His Highness and President Trump, and I think they were very impressed. In fact, one of our robots did the Trump dance, which I thought was pretty cool.
The YMCA, yeah?
Yeah, to YMCA. So, yeah, our robots can dance, they can walk around, they can interact. I think we're headed to a radically different world. I think a good world, an interesting world. My prediction actually for humanoid robots is that ultimately there will be tens of billions. I think everyone will want to have their personal robot. You can think of it like as though you had your own personal C-3PO or R2-D2, but even better, then who wouldn't want to have their own personal C-3PO, R2-D2? That would be pretty great. I also think it unlocks an immense amount of economic potential, because when you think of like what is the output of an economy, it is productivity per capita times population or capita. Once you have humanoid robots, the actual economic output potential is tremendous. It's really unlimited. Potentially, we could have an economy 10 times the size of the current global economy, where no one wants for anything. Sometimes in AI they talk about universal basic income. I think it's actually going to be universal high income, where anyone can have any goods or services that they want. A science fiction book recommendation that I have, which I think is probably the best envisioning of an AI future, is the culture books by Ian Banks. Very highly recommended for a non-dystopian view of the future. Now, there obviously are some risks, which illustrate perhaps if we don't do this right, you could have like a James Cameron sort of movie, Terminator. We don't want that one. But having sort of a Star Trek future would be great, where we're out there exploring the stars, discovering the nature of the universe, and a level of prosperity and hopefully happiness that we can't quite imagine yet. So I'm very excited about the future, and very glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's our absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
And His Royal Highness was talking to you about his vision and his dream to increase productivity for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and power up the region and the whole world with robotics, but also on robo-taxis. So how are we doing on robo-taxis?
So really you can think of a car or future cars as being robots on four wheels. And, I think it would be very exciting to have autonomous vehicles here in the kingdom.
Indeed.
If you're amenable.
You heard it here from Elon. He's bringing his robo-taxi to the kingdom.
Yeah.
He has another announcement that he's going to share later.
Exactly. So, and I'd also like to thank the kingdom for approving Starlink for maritime and aviation use. Thank you.
Maritime and aviation. There you go. There you go.
So you're
going to bring us robots to help us increase our productivity.
Yeah.
Robo-taxis to make sure that our cars and assets turn into a cash-generating unit.
Yeah.
And Starlink to reform our aviation and maritime.
Yeah.
Talk about XAI.
Absolutely. But I should want to mention also something that may be worth considering is tunnels.
Tunnels. The Boring Company.
I have this company called The Boring Company, which sounds kind of boring, but it literally bores tunnels. And actually, tunnels, in order to solve traffic, you really need to go 3D with roads. And by using tunnels, you can essentially create like a wormhole, like a warp tunnel from one part of a city to another and alleviate traffic. And we've actually already done this proof of concept in Vegas. So there are working tunnels in Las Vegas that you can use where that'll just, it feels like teleporting from one part of Vegas to another. So I always say that, my joke is like tunnels are underappreciated. It's a bit of not always a hit, but. And then XAI is just trying to solve general purpose artificial intelligence. The goal with XAI is to have a maximally truth-seeking AI. And it's important to be maximally truth-seeking AI in order to understand the universe. Mm-hmm. So the goal of XAI is understand the universe. To understand, what is out there. Where's the universe going? Where did it come from? what questions, in fact, I think maybe the biggest thing is, what questions do we not know to ask? Like, once you know the question, the answer is usually the easy part. So the goal of XAI is to help understand the universe and yeah, that's the goal. And help people answer any questions along the way, of course. But I mean, that's my philosophy. My philosophy is one of curiosity, just trying to understand the nature of reality.
So I know you had a
And
long
I
day,
support
but we
that.
also have the
Anybody want to
Honorable
remind me what
President
happened to the cat?
and His Royal Highness
Curious.
Saidi hitting the stage soon. So this is a historic day, a partnership about how we could join hands together, as we have joined hands in the past 92 years, on building a factor-based economy to help the world and power up 20% of the energy mix, which is very critical today to the AI intelligence age, the digital age, and how we have reformed, and with the intelligent age. And we could not be more appreciative of having a lifetime partner and a friend like you, Elon, to the kingdom.
Thank you.
Joining hands on XAI, Starlink, and robotics and Tesla. Thank you so much on behalf of the whole kingdom, and we look forward to continue the partnership.
All right, so there you heard a little bit. Again, I'm on the fence with a lot of this stuff. As a sci-fi nerd, I will not lie. As a kid, I wanted a C-3PO so bad. Wasn't ever really a huge fan of R2-D2 because even though everybody in the scenes could understand him, I couldn't, and I didn't like that. And C-3PO is a bit pretentious, but I have to admit, now that I'm getting older, it would be really great if I had like an Optimus that could, clean my house, an Optimus that would do my yard work, and specifically buy the one that can cook. Because yeah, I have to do most of those things, or I have to have my children who live with me do most of those things, and they're always mad at me when I make them do those things. So I did think it was interesting, and I wish they would have drilled down on that a little bit more. And if I had a way to talk to him, I really have questions about what he means about a universal high income situation, because I don't really know how that would work unless people are allowed to purchase the robots that go into the factories and they get residuals from the work that they put out. I don't really know how that would work. Now, I will admit that in some cases, the time that you would save, because remember, if we start breaking things down by time spent earning the things that you need to have or that you want to have, you start getting a completely different look at our economy. Because, and I talked about this in the opening of the show, the price of Golden Corral, if you've been around as long as I have, seems exponentially more expensive than it used to be until you break it down by how many hours it takes for you to afford each individual meal. In the reality of the concept of you looking at it that way, taking into account that when I first started going to Golden Corral, minimum wage was $4.25 an hour, and it cost $5.99 in the evenings per person, you are again talking about 1 1/4 hours worth of work for your time. Taking into account the average wage in Oklahoma right now, not the minimum wage. Now that's where the discrepancy happens. If you look at it at the federal minimum wage, then yes, there's a problem, because at that point, federal minimum wage, I believe, is still $7.25 an hour. So you're now taking over 2 hours of your time for each Golden Corral meal if you go in the evenings. Now, again, since we were talking about a 1.25% increase to a 1.5% wage rate breakdown to now a 2% or 2 times, not percent, breakdown, that's not as bad as it seems on paper. But if you go with the average wage in Oklahoma, which as of right now, as far as I can tell, is $60,000 a year, is the average median income for Oklahomans. So if you do that math, that puts them on average for the average median income somewhere around, I'm not doing the math in my head. Hang on. Let me cheat. I don't usually, but today I'm cheating because it's been one of those days. So we do $60,000 a year, which is the average. Now, this is average middle class median income, which are usually the folks that go out to eat. So we do 60,000 divided by 52 divided by 40. So that is $28.84. So basically $28.84 an hour. So if you look at the average median income, then you're actually only paying about half per hour when you go to dinner. So I think that's where a lot of their price points come from. Now let's break this down a little bit more. Let's assume you are not at the $60,000 a year price point for what it means to be middle class in Oklahoma right now, which I actually rounded up a little bit. I think it's 55. But let's do average base wage. So in most places now, they don't even pay minimum wage anymore. Even when you go to fast food places, they do $12 an hour. So let's just do that. So if you're paying $15 per person at Golden Corral, now this is not counting the drinks. The drinks change the dynamic a little bit. But for just for the meal itself, because the price that I did a minute ago didn't include the drink either, from when the minimum wage was a lot smaller. Then if you add that up and add that up and math that out. This is why I don't normally try to do math on my shows. I get tongue-tied. But you're talking about, so $12 an hour to $15 an hour. So that's basically $3 an hour, which again, if you break it down, that's 3 times 4 is 12. So again, really, I was wrong. The rate, now granted, it's not exactly fair to do it minimum wage to standard wage comparison, but just to try to put it into a perspective for you, since most of us don't even make minimum wage anymore, no matter where you live, you're talking about basically the same price point. It's 1.25 hours of your labor for every meal that you buy at Golden Corral in the evenings or on weekends, because you can actually save a little bit of money if you go earlier, before 5, I think. So the price point is actually the same. But this is what the Democrats don't want you to know. Again, you guys are probably like, why did you bring this up again? You talked about this in the beginning of the show. Let me explain it to you, because it correlates to something that I was talking about a moment ago. For those of you who haven't met me yet, I love to play the game of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. Sorry, I'll remember how to talk in a second. So let's put this back together. We were just talking about the fact that the media is able to lie to you and say there's no proof that white people are being genocided in South Africa, unless you take a look at the details and are willing to dig into it on your own and do some research. And then you're finding out that 6 people have been murdered in the last, 6 to 8 weeks over there that were all owners of farms or on farmland. Most of them were probably the color that we're talking about, otherwise known as Caucasian. Then you look at the other data and you're talking about anywhere between 35 to 45 murders within a year, all of which were farm owners. But again, if there's only 4% of people of color in Africa that are allowed to own property or are able to own property, where does that mean the predominancy of those murders probably landed, statistically speaking? So this is what I'm talking about. If you start really thinking about how far your money actually goes, and if you start at a base point of where you were when you first started working and what it costs to do things versus where you are now and what it costs to do things, I guarantee you, if you look at it in that basis, you're probably going to find out that we're not really that far off from where we were before. It just seems like it, because now it takes more money to get us to that hourly price point, because our money's worthless. And yes, I'm backing up to what BZ said a moment ago because I forgot he said it. So we were arguing over Alexa in the chat while the clip was playing. So my ex-wife, who no longer obviously lives with me, when my children were still living at home and she was with me, she swore up and down that she would never own a device such as an Alexa because she didn't like, the stories that were coming out about Alexas. So my now ex-wife waited until my daughter and she had both moved out, and then at one point for a Christmas get-together, she gave her an Alexa. Well, my daughter's now moved back home, and the Alexa came with her. So yes, I said curmudgeonly, get off my lawn. But again, I've always been really cranky about Alexa until somebody pointed out that everything Alexa does, my phone already does. So it's kind of silly to be mad at my daughter for having one. And I will admit, my granddaughter loves it because she just walks in and says, hey, Alexa, do this. Hey, Alexa, do this. And she loves having that ability. She's even taught it how to use Amazon. I think it's Amazon Books, or it may even be tied to Audible. she will have it read her bedtime stories if my daughter doesn't want to. So it's a useful thing to a point, but I get it. It's funny because in BZ's generation, it was trying to do everything you can to keep the government out of your business. Now you're basically inviting wiretaps into your home. So I do understand the curmudgeonliness about this stuff, but it doesn't change the fact that the world is changing. We're going to have to figure out how we change with it. All right. So one last quick hit tied to this same story. This is from CNN. I think we have a clip. I think it may be one of the ones we played already or an offshoot of it. So I may be duplicating work here because I found it from another source. I'm not sure. We're going to play it anyway, though. So hang on.
So if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They are. They're leaving to come here.
No. They can
These
leave
refugees
and go,
are coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you against them coming here?
Holland, probably.
Holland.
Are you
yes.
against them coming here?
I'm against the hypocrisy of this administration.
No, that's not the question. The question is, are you against them coming here?
If there was actually a genocide happening, like there is in other places in Sudan, in the Congo, I'm not opposed for Congolese and for the Sudanese to come to Africa, just like I'm not opposed to Venezuelans and South Americans coming to America if they are fleeing and looking for asylum. What I am
just
against,
these 50 people you're
what
against.
I am against, it's not about being against them. What I am against is that they are being given special treatment when there is not a genocide happening in South Africa, and they just don't like the law of the land.
Well,
so you know what they
there
tell
has been
people?
violence.
All right. So in my opinion, this lady should be fired. All right. So, and it looks like, according to Monchi, he agrees with me. He says somebody should be fired. So things got wild on CNN Monday night after a former Obama staffer and current CNN analyst decided to go on a racist rant over President Donald Trump admitting 48, count them, 48 South African refugees. Remember, I told you it was somewhere probably around 50 or 60. As compared to the how many Haitians and other groups that were just allowed to come strolling in, but she's having a fit over 48 South African people being given refugee status. So as Red State has previously reported, South Africa's ruling party has infamously made singing "Kill the Boer," which translates to "kill the farmer," a staple of their political rallies. For context, the song specifically refers to white farmers, or Afrikaners, and dates back to the country's apartheid days. Laws to confiscate their land and extrajudicial killings have killings. My inner Okie came out there for a second. This is why I try not to give Sean too much crap about his Boston accent, and then sometimes I just can't help it, because sometimes my inner Okie comes out and I start talking like this. Have taken center stage over the last several years. For some reason, though, that has greatly offended Democrats who have finally found refugees they do not want to admit into the country. Funny how that works, right? I'm sure it's just a coincidence. On the other hand, as we just watched, Ashley Allison made it clear that that's not it. So what an absolute deranged thing to say on so many levels. Imagine for a moment if a Republican CNN panelist told Black Americans that they can leave and go back to their native land if they don't like the laws that physically and financially persecute them. You imagine that person would still have a job right now? Probably not. Yeah, I don't think so either. Heck, they kicked Ryan James Gerdusky off the air permanently for making a beaver joke about terrorist supporter Mehdi Hassan. I can't really say that I had forgotten about that, but it hadn't crossed my mind in a while. And sorry, that's why I was laughing. The clip just kind of replayed in my head. That happens from time to time. And conservative commentators chimed in to provide his bit of insight on Allison's rampant racism. So here's the second clip tied to what they've been talking about. And of course, you're going to make me do that this time. One moment, please. After this clip, we're going to have to wrap because I'm almost out of time. I keep forgetting that I had to start late because of the news. So it's probably another reason why this one feels like it's taking forever, but it's not a very long clip. So,
and part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve rightful land back. That is not what the Afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans, and so who are not originally from Africa, who colonized South Africa also. And so that is what they are saying is discrimination. Now, if the Constitution in South Africa is discriminatory, they have their checks and balances in that land just like we do. And that is for them to, so if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They are. They're leaving to come here.
No. They can
These
leave
refugees
and go,
are coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you
or
against them coming here?
Holland, probably. Holland. And part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land.
I guess they felt like that clip was making a different point in the article, but it really didn't. I do think he made a great question that she never really answered. Are you against them coming here? And let's keep in mind, it's 48 people, not the 15 billion that have come across the border during the old Biden administration, as a friend of mine used to call him, because it's basically a continuation of the same thing. All right, so we've covered a lot of stuff today. I've still got a lot of stuff in the stack of stuff for tomorrow. I just said stuff twice, and that sounded really weird. But I do still have lots of material in my stack of stuff that we will get to and finish off tomorrow, and also adding in whatever comes as we await this newest news cycle. And don't forget, come back tonight for KLRNradio.com's Night Shift, which I am a part of. First for the Cocktail Lounge, hosted by Brad with the good hair and the lovely Aggie Rican. Then the folks of Manorama, which I am a panelist for. I do find it interesting. I have to do this. I wasn't going to do this. But we also have another men's-related podcast, which is a once-a-month show here on KLRN Radio. Usually airs on the second Wednesday of the month, so it'll be 8 p.m. this week. There's a group that puts out lists of different podcasts and their influences in their genres. Since we are part of a male masculinity podcast group, we are number 99 out of 100. Our fellow sort of kind of competitors, because it's not anything that's branded to us. We're still a part of it, though. The Manorama crew, they didn't make the list. Oh, I may be giving the host over there just a little bit of crap about that tonight, just for fun. And you may, if you're starting to interact with us in the chats, you will see each branded group giving each other shit. I promise you, it's because we actually like one another. That's one of the things that I think confuses, especially women, the most about men. They will be catty with each other and mean it. We will be dicks to one another and then go laugh about it. It's just kind of how things are. All right. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show, but we have reached the point in the program where, sadly for both you and me, I do have to tell you, this one is over. Bye, everybody.
What? Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Closing time. Open all the doors and let you out into the world.
This isn't over until I say it's over!
Closing time.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? Game over, man. It's game over.
Closing time. Time for you to go out to the places you will be from. Closing time. This room won't be open till your brothers or your sisters come.
I love you, Oklahoma. What a great crowd. I love you.
Say goodnight, Greg.